JFK was murdered on November 22nd, 1963. For a long time, I didn't realize how long the motorcade actually was. And I've noticed in the first few tubecasts we've done who was in it, where they were located, and what they were doing. Very important things to consider. So what I've done is I've done a schematic of the first half of the motorcade. We can have a look at the rear at another time. I'm not sure it's so important, but nothing surprises you when you study this. The more you get into it, the more things you find. So it could be that it is more relevant than I currently think it is. But for the time being, let's just have a look at the first part of the motorcade, the front part. So I've only just realised that in front of the pilot car there was actually another car which was called the advance car, and driving that was Captain Purdue W. Lawrence from the Dallas Police Department. Then following him we had the pilot car. This has got some interesting characters in it. So driving was another Dallas Police Department officer, Deputy Chief George L. Lumpkin, who I'm not sure, but I think had some associations with Lieutenant Colonel George L. Whitmire, the East Texas commander of the U.S. Army Reserve, who was sitting in the rear in the middle, and who I've read somewhere actually wasn't meant to be in that car, and for some reason or other insisted he would be in it. So perhaps we can look at whether there was any significance to that another time. Then either side of Lieutenant Colonel Whitmire at the back was another Dallas Police Department official, William Billy Senko, on the left, and then on the right we had someone from the presidential staff at the White House, Jack Peterbough. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. So I'm not sure exactly. I mean, was it ceremonial? Were they carrying out security duties? If they were, I'm not sure they did a very good job about that. I think I'm also right in saying that this car stopped at the corner of Houston and Elm, and George Lumpkin got out and actually spoke to some of the police officers there controlling the traffic. So let's move on to the next line of vehicles. We had then what were called the advance motorcycles. So on the far side, imagine you're standing on the grassy knoll. Riding a motorcycle was Dallas Police Officer Glenn McBride. In the middle, Sergeant Bella, and on the near side, Dallas Police Officer J.B. Garrick. Then we had what were called the lead motorcycles. On the far side, Dallas Police Officer Sergeant Stavis Ellis. On the inside left, Dallas Police Officer Buddy Brewer. In the middle, Dallas Police Officer Leon Gray. On the inside right, Dallas Police Officer Harold Freeman. And then on the near side, Dallas Police Officer W.G. Lumpkin. I don't know whether that's any relation to George Lumpkin, but I would say that's not a common name, although it could be that in Dallas it is. But that's an interesting line to follow in the future as well. And then if we move on, then we come to the lead car. So this was visible in a lot of the assassination photos. At the time of the shooting, it was just in front of the triple overpass. And there are pictures with its brake lights on. Driving this car was Jesse Curry, Dallas Police Chief. On his right was Secret Agent Winston George Wynn Lawson, i.e. a Secret Service man. Behind him, on the right, we had Forrest Sorrells, also the Civil Secret Service, who I believe was from the Dallas office. And then on the left, we have Bill Decker, who was the Dallas County Sheriff. So even though Bill Decker had told all his all his deputies to stand down, he himself was in the car in front of the presidential limousine. It's also been said that in the trial run, when they were surveying the route in the days before the motorcade, Jesse Curry had only driven to the corner of Main and Houston, and then just told, was it Lawson or Sorrells or both, that then the car would head off to the limousine would head off to the trademark, without indicating that actually it would then take the turn onto Houston and then onto Elm. But even if that is the case, and with the Secret Service's accounts of what happened, a little bit difficult to believe at times, I'm not convinced that that is what happened. Even if that were the case, surely Sorrells and Lawson were in the car exactly for the purpose of noticing something's wrong about people stood at the side of the street or the route. So even though they must have known that there were lots of security problems with, for example, the school book depository, the picket fence, people like Zapruder standing on the stone plinth, the triple overpass, they allowed the motorcade to continue. So for me, this part of the story is difficult to believe that they hadn't known about the predicament that going down Elm presented, especially Forrest Sorrells, if he was the local man. I just find it very difficult to believe that he couldn't have known about the route that was going to be taken. Okay, and let's go on to the presidential limousine. So Bill Greer, a Secret Service man, was driving. In the passenger seat was Roy Kellerman. In the jump seat on the near side, if you're standing on the grass, was John Connolly. His wife was on the far side, as was Jackie at the rear, and then of course JFK was on the near side. If it's true that the car actually veered to the left and stopped, then that suggests to me that if a shot were coming from the front, and it was purposely done, then that were to facilitate a shot from the front and to the right, which would have been the knoll behind the picket fence, even up as far as the triple overpass, which is where I believe Roscoe White was officially stationed. So although it could also be that it was moving away from the curb and it was to enable somebody in the drain to get a shot off. Okay, and then for the time being, let's just look at one more slide. Sorry, there are two more. Sorry. Yes, so these were the presidential motorcycles that should have been at either side of the limousine, but are actually held back. Bobby Hargis was on the far side. Some people have speculated that he actually was a shooter, which for me, from there, is difficult to conceive, but people like Max Holland have speculated there's as much as 11 seconds of film footage missing from the Zapruder film. So it could be that 11 seconds would have been enough for Hargis to have got from there to get where he needed to be to shoot JFK, although to be honest, I'm very skeptical about that theory. Then on the inside right, Billy Joe Martin, and then on the near side, we had Dallas police officers James Chaney and Douglas Jackson. For me, especially if the Zapruder film has been doctored, and it looks like it's been doctored to hide something that happened on the near side of the limousine, then to me these two cyclists are bigger suspects than the two on the far side, which is not to say they did it, but I'm just saying before anyone's eliminated from inquiries, I would have them as bigger suspects than Hargis or Martin. After the shooting, I think they did consult with each other, and then they sped off to Parkland, whereas Hargis stayed in Dealey Plaza, went up the grassy knoll, then had a look on the other side of the overpass as if he felt something had happened on the knoll. For the time being, the final slide we're going to look at is the Queen Mary, which I'm sorry I confused with the presidential limousine earlier. So this was the follow-up car. When you see some slides, you realize it's actually very close to the back of the presidential limousine at times. And then you look at other slides or other pictures, and it doesn't look that close. But anyway, Secret Service man Sam Kinney was driving. On his right was Emery Roberts, who we've had a look at already and have raised suspicions about. Behind him on his right, we had Dave Powers, who was a Kennedy aide. Sitting alongside him on the far side was Ken O'Donnell, who I've pointed out in the, I think it's the Willis photo, or one of the Willis photos, looks uptight as the car is coming down Dealey before the shots have been fired. And where he was sat, he would have had a good view of the pergola, the picket fence. Sat behind O'Donnell on the far side was George Hickey, who in another photo is the man standing up with the machine gun, and who some have said actually mistakenly or accidentally fired a shot that killed JFK, which I find difficult to believe myself. And then on the near side, behind Dave Powers, we had Glenn Bennett. Then we have 4 further special agents, Secret Service agents, on the running boards. On the near side, Jack Reddy. Behind him, Paul Landis. Then on the far side, Clint Hill. and behind him Tim McIntyre. As I pointed out in another video, those guys on the running boards looked pretty calm, pretty relaxed going down there. Although I've always wondered if there were shots from coming from behind that picket fence, you'd have been curious about it. It's almost like they're not looking there when you watch the film footage. It's like they're deliberately not hearing the shots. I mean, so why did it take so long for them to realize that shots were being fired? It's almost like they didn't want to hear the shots. They didn't want to notice somebody firing shots. So for me, that's unusual behavior. And as I pointed out, Ken O'Donnell looked uptight in the car. Emery Roberts also is a suspicious character. Secret Service behavior at the autopsy also raises further suspicions. So that's it for the time being, but we can look at the rest of the motorcade another time.